Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. You know how we're always talking about how technology is changing the world? Well, today we're diving into something that's really shaking things up in the customer support world. And those are large language models, or LLMs for short. I mean, we've all been there, right? Stuck on a website, desperately trying to get help, and ending up chatting with a bot that's about as helpful as a brick wall. Well, LLMs are behind a lot of those interactions. And honestly, they're getting so good at sounding human, it's kind of freaky.
It really is amazing how far they've come. And what's really mind-blowing is the sheer scale of these models. We're talking trillions of parameters. Think of those as tiny little pieces of information the model has absorbed. It's like feeding a computer. Every book ever written, every article, every website, every bit of code out there, and then some.
Okay, so we're talking a lot of information here. But how does a computer actually learn from all that? It's not like it just magically understands the meaning behind all those words, right?
No, not magic. It's incredibly complex, of course. But at its core, an LLM is a type of artificial intelligence. And it uses what's called a deep learning algorithm to understand and generate human language. So instead of being programmed with specific rules, it learns patterns and relationships from this massive amount of data it's trained on.
So it's not just spitting out canned responses like those old school chatbots we all know and love. It's actually learning how to communicate more like we do.
Exactly. And the secret sauce that makes that possible is something called a transformer model. I know it sounds a bit technical, but basically it allows the LLM to see how different words and concepts in a sentence relate to each other. It's not just processing them one by one in a linear way.
So it's kind of like how we understand language as humans,
Right.
right? We don't just hear individual words. We get the context and how those words all work together to make meaning.
You got it. And while LLMs aren't perfect, that ability to understand those nuances of language is a big reason why they're becoming so powerful, especially in this whole customer support arena.
So that's where things get really interesting, and that's what we're going to dive into next. How are LLMs actually being used in customer support? And what does that mean for both businesses and customers? Stay tuned because we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of how these language models are transforming the way companies interact with us, and maybe even changing the future of customer service as we know it.
Absolutely, and I think we'll be surprised by just how much is already happening. Things we probably encounter every day without even realizing it.
Exactly. So let's unpack it all after a quick break.
All right, so let's talk about how LLMs are actually changing the game in customer support, because it's not just about replacing humans with robots. It's about using this technology to make those customer interactions smoother
Yeah.
and more helpful for everyone involved.
Yeah. I mean, who hasn't been stuck in phone menu hell? Or tried to get help from a chatbot that's just completely clueless? It's like talking to a wall sometimes.
Exactly, and that's where LLMs can really shine. Imagine a chatbot that can actually understand your problem, no matter how you phrase it,
Yeah.
and then guide you to a solution quickly and efficiently.
So it's like having a super smart assistant who's always available and never gets tired of your questions, even when you're having a total tech meltdown.
You got it. But it's not just about answering questions either. LLMs can also be used to proactively identify potential issues before they even become problems for the customer.
Wait, hold on. How does an AI anticipate problems before they happen? That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound futuristic, but it's already happening. Let's say you're browsing a website and having trouble finding a specific product. An LLM-powered system can actually analyze your behavior, recognize your frustration, and automatically offer assistance or suggest some relevant alternatives.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It's like having a mind-reading personal shopper who knows exactly what you need before you even ask.
And that's just scratching the surface. LLMs can also be used to personalize the customer experience in ways that were never possible before. They can analyze past interactions, remember your preferences, and tailor their responses to your individual needs.
So it's not just about getting faster answers. It's about getting the right answers,
Yeah,
delivered in a way that feels personal and relevant to you.
exactly. And as this technology keeps evolving, we can expect even more sophisticated applications. Imagine LLMs that can understand not just what you're saying, but also how you're feeling.
Like if I'm super frustrated, the AI can pick up on that and adjust its tone accordingly.
That's the idea. It's all about creating a more human-like interaction, even if it's happening through a digital interface.
That's incredible. It sounds like LLMs are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in customer support.
They definitely are. And while there are still some challenges to overcome, I think it's safe to say that LLMs are going to play a major role in shaping the future of how companies interact with their customers.
Okay, so we've talked about all the amazing things LLMs can do, But what about the potential downsides? Is there a risk of these AI systems getting things wrong
Yeah.
or even causing harm?
That's a really important question, and one that developers and companies are very aware of. One of the key challenges is making sure that these models are trained on data that's unbiased and representative of the real world.
So if an LLM is trained on data that's skewed or incomplete,
Hmm.
it could end up making decisions or giving advice that's inaccurate
Yeah,
or even harmful.
that's right. So it's crucial to be very careful about the data used to train these models and to constantly monitor them for any signs of bias or unintended consequences.
It sounds like a lot of responsibility comes with this kind of technology.
Absolutely. But when developed and deployed responsibly, LLMs have the potential to be a powerful force for good in customer support and beyond.
This has been super insightful, but before we wrap up, was there anything in the research that really jumped out at you as being particularly important for people to understand?
One thing that really struck me was the emphasis on the evolving role of human agents in this new landscape. While LLMs are capable of handling many tasks, there will always be a need for human interaction and expertise in customer support.
So it's not about replacing humans altogether. It's about figuring out how humans and AI can best work together.
Exactly. The future of customer support is likely to involve a blend of human and AI capabilities, each playing to their strengths.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's not
Mm.
about AI taking over. It's
Mm.
more about finding that sweet spot between human and artificial intelligence.
Exactly. Think of it like this. LLMs can handle those routine tasks, like answering frequently asked questions or walking customers through those basic troubleshooting steps, which frees up the human agents to focus on the more complex issues, the ones that require a bit more empathy and creativity and some nuanced decision making.
So it's like having a dream team where each side is bringing their A game to the table and ultimately creating a much better experience for the customer.
That's a great way to put it. And the research actually shows that this kind of collaboration can lead to some pretty impressive results. Companies are seeing faster response times, higher customer satisfaction rates, and even increased sales.
That's amazing. But I'm also curious about the human side of all this. How do customer service agents feel about working alongside AI? Is there any fear of being replaced?
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable that there might be some hesitation at first, but what we're seeing is that a lot of agents are actually embracing this technology. They're starting to realize that LLMs can be incredibly valuable tools that can actually make their jobs easier and more fulfilling.
So instead of feeling threatened, they're seeing AI as a partner that
Right.
can help them do their jobs better.
Exactly. It's like having a super powered assistant who can handle all the grunt work, freeing up the human agent to focus on building relationships with customers and solving those really tricky problems that require that human touch.
That sounds like a win-win for everyone. But I do wonder if AI keeps getting smarter and more capable, will there eventually be no need for human agents at all?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And while it's impossible to predict the future with absolute certainty, I personally believe that human interaction will always be a vital part of the customer experience.
Why is that? What is it about that human connection that AI just can't replicate?
Think about a time when you had a really frustrating experience with a company, and you finally got to talk to a real person who actually listened to you, understood your problem, and genuinely went above and beyond to help. That feeling of being heard and understood, of having someone empathize with your situation, that's something that's really hard for AI to replicate, at least for now.
That makes sense.
Uh,
We're social creatures after all.
yeah.
And sometimes we just need that human connection, especially when we're feeling stressed or frustrated.
Exactly. And I think companies are realizing that even as AI becomes more and more sophisticated, there will always be a need for those human agents who can provide that personal touch, build relationships, and navigate those complex situations that require emotional intelligence and good judgment.
So it sounds like the future of customer support isn't about choosing between AI or humans. It's about figuring out how to blend those two worlds together to create something truly exceptional.
I completely agree. And that's what makes this such an exciting time to be following this field. We're witnessing the birth of a new era in customer service, one where technology and humanity are working hand in hand to create experiences that are both efficient and deeply satisfying.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the world of LLMs and customer support. We've explored the technical side of these models, their real-world applications, and the changing role of human agents. As we wrap up, what's the one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing to remember is that LLMs aren't just about automation. They're about augmenting human capabilities and creating a more human-centered approach to customer service. It's all about using technology to enhance those human connections, not to replace them.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners to ponder the possibilities of this fascinating and rapidly evolving field. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, stay curious.